All right, what's up, guys? Good afternoon. Apologies for not having the pod out this morning. Couldn't get the internet to operate. So here we are in the middle of the afternoon. And wow, what a day. What a day so far. The Orioles get a new manager, Craig Albernes from Massachusetts. All right, here's my initial thought. My initial thought is, as somebody who was, hoping that the Orioles would go in a completely different direction here, it's a little bit of a letdown, to say the least. I wanted fresh eyes. I wanted somebody that was experienced, somebody that's been around. He seems like a great guy, which normally you're going to find positive articles when someone gets hired. Seems like a great guy. Seems like he's got, great work ethic and the whole nine, but it also feels like Brandon Hyde light, if I'm being completely blunt. It's like we're leading with the fact that he's good with relationships and he's hardworking and attention to detail. And it just felt like what the Orioles needed is somebody that was better at baseball than our younger players, or at least somebody that's accomplished more at the major league level than our younger players, so we can have a different message. It's nice to have Hyde and then Mansolino and then Albanizer, Craig. I hope he does a great job, but it's like it's the same guy, just packaged a little bit differently. That's my feeling. When you're managing a baseball team and you're doing this for, every day's a grind and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you need to have the relationships. I believe that's important. But Buck Britton's there. And, he's the guy that managed most of these young guys, if not all of them, at some point in their career. So you have a guy there. There's other coaches around that have been there from the beginning. I don't think we need to baby our young superstars right now. I think it's time to have those grown-up conversations. I think it's time to have somebody lead by example. And that's why the Pujols rumors were super exciting. To settle for this guy figures that we're just basically keeping the operation the same way. Elias will get final say. They'll keep a lot of the same coaches and scouts and the whole nine. And they found a different face to run, the day-to-day operations. And I'm sure he's a really smart guy who's going to be hardworking and endear himself to the players. But it's not exactly what I was looking for. So that's my take on the Orioles. I'm going to break down the players and all that jazz just a little bit later. We're in the middle of football season, but interesting decision. And that's my take on it. So, all right, let's go to the Ravens here, and then we'll get to the rest of the NFL. Tyler Huntley saves the Ravens season. Feels like that's the headline. But to me, the headline going into today, after what I saw yesterday, is the defense bends but not breaks. That's what I would look at, because we were looking at 7-0, or we were looking at 10-0, or we're looking at 14-0. One of those three options would have been the favorite there, based on those two drives the Bears had to start the game yesterday. The Bears go right down the field, settle for 3 because Mike Green gets a great sack. And then we go 3 and out. Bears go right down the field. I might be getting that backwards, but either way, we stopped them 2 times in a row once they got down there. And that's where we won the game, because at that point it's 6-0 instead of 10 or 14-0. And you're feeling like, man, this is great. This is like the kind of game that we're built to play. Old school Ravens, holding to some field goals, see if we can get a little bit lucky here, make some plays. And not lucky. It just turned out that our offense became pretty efficient. Tyler Huntley went right down the field to make it 7-6. And that drive was just a great drive, an inspiring drive, exciting to watch. And then if you fast forward, when it's 16-13, because it was 16-6, Bears get a touchdown, then they stop us, we got a punt, and you're like, oh shit, it's 16-13, 8 minutes or so left on the clock. And we've seen this movie too many times, but instead Nate Wiggins, and look, if we're going to be an elite team, if we're going to really make a run here, certain guys got to take a big jump. And one of those guys is going to be Nate Wiggins, because you need somebody to be an elite corner. He was far from it yesterday. They kept picking on him. Odunze was making catch after catch, but they went to the well one too many times, and Wiggins jumped the route, played the game, and gets the interception. And then, you got to give credit where it's due, because Monken drew up just a fantastic play. Whenever you have a guy wide open in the red zone, you got to give credit to the offensive coordinator. Certainly, and he did. Kohler was wide open. Ravens get the lead, and then they just hold on. They held on. They grinded the game to a halt there. It was Ravens football 101. The Lamar Jackson stuff gets to take a back seat because, boy, that would have been front page. Bears blow out the Ravens. What the hell's going on with Lamar? Instead, the Ravens get the win. They're 2-5. It's a little strange because the Dolphins played so great yesterday that now you can't just chalk up a win here on Thursday night, especially if Lamar's not going to go. But you feel much better about the Ravens this morning than you did yesterday. So that's for sure. What was I going to say? The main thing that I also took away from the game when I just look at just the way we played is, man, they just didn't make the mistake. And it's crazy because you just watch the NFL. If you watch enough of it, it's never that big of a deal. Like, it's never that big of a discrepancy between the talent on the roster. You see these blowouts yesterday. I'm going to go through these games in a minute. But there's always just a couple of plays that change the entire trajectory of a game. And it's always turnovers. Like the Vikings-Chargers game, to get slightly off topic, but to make my point, was probably the best example of that this entire season because the Chargers essentially throw a pick six to start the game, but it's not. It's like just an inch away from being a pick six. So the Vikings go from being up 7-0 to they lose 37-10. So after the game's finished, you can say, yeah, the Chargers was the easy bet. And I had the Chargers. But it doesn't mean that if that just one play right there, just an inch or two turns in, it just makes the game completely different. And that was the Ravens season in a microcosm with some of these games where it's like, man, we just can't get the ball to bounce our way, starting with the Bills' second half. So to get it to bounce our way yesterday by essentially not turning the ball over and just getting the turnover was the main difference. I don't know if anything else fundamentally changed. There's still some holes. The Bears moved the ball. There's some things you didn't love. There wasn't a tremendous amount of running room for Derrick Henry. Keaton Mitchell's got to get the ball more. I mean, my goodness, he's got to get the ball. He's just as fast as last time we saw him. That play's like etched in my brain, that Browns play from last year where he's just running around the corner. And you're like, holy crap, Lamar's not even the fastest guy on the team. We got this guy. So I hope he gets the ball more in the future. But, yeah, we're back. We're back. So let's go through these games here. We can start with one of the games I got wrong, the Patriots-Browns. These under with the Browns games, not doing it anymore. So that's 2 weeks in a row. Browns didn't hold up their end of the bargain. The first time against the Dolphins, they scored too many points, and then they couldn't stop New England yesterday. They get up 7-0. And I guess that's the Patriots' MO. The Titans got up on them last week, and then boom, Patriots, here we go. They roll over Cleveland. All these games are blowouts. It was one of those days where it sucked to sit in front of the TV all day long, especially if you're on the wrong side of a blowout. Like, nothing worse than that. So, yeah, that will be the theme as we go through them, except the Jets and the Bengals. That will be the one exception. Although the Bengals had them up 38-24, Jets finally find a way to get a win. The Bengals, just a heartbreaking loss. They're trying to get into the playoffs. That's the type of game where they'll look back at the end of the season and be like, that was not ideal. Jets, what to say about the Jets? They finally get the win. I don't know if there's much else to say. I can't imagine they're going to be too relevant down the stretch, but glad I didn't take the under in that game. I was thinking about it. It turns out to be the highest scoring game of the day. Jets beat the Bengals. Texans dominate the Niners. Just Stroud, I said it yesterday. I'm still high on them. You have to be careful with these quarterbacks having strong opinions week to week. You either see something you like or you don't, but you can't go from Hall of Famer to a bust just week by week because it might look like that in certain games. And I've always been high on Stroud. It's a big game for him yesterday, big game for the Texans. Their defense is elite. They get a big win. Eagles roll over the Giants. Not even close. Horrible injury there for Scadaboo. That's terrible. Terrible story for the Giants. And the Giants are pretty much cooked now. And they'll get ready for next year with or without a new coach. My guess is with a new coach. But the Eagles roll. Barkley has a great game. A little banged up there, but, the Eagles are just rolling. So can't read too much into the Eagles on a week-to-week basis. They seem like they're fundamentally going to be there at the end, and we'll see what they look like here in the postseason. But a great win for them and bounce back. The Dolphins touched on it earlier. The Dolphins destroyed the Falcons yesterday. Kirk Cousins, not great. Not at all. And Dolphins offense plays with the lead. The defense is not bad. They've actually played pretty well this season in certain spots. So I can't wait for this game on Thursday night because now they're in a better mood. They go back home. I guess they think they're still alive, right? The rest of us on the outside can think they're finished, but when you win 34-10 and you only have, whatever their record is, I guess 2-5, you still think you can win. So the Dolphins, they'll play desperate. They're going to throw the ball in the middle of the field, try to get the ball down the field against us. We shall see how we respond. But great win for them yesterday. And the Falcons continue to disappoint. Just when you want to buy into them, that's why I never do it. It's been the same Falcons team here ever since Matt Ryan's left. They're just so inconsistent, no discipline. The game I get the right about is Buffalo. That was the easiest just running of the football I think I've seen all years. The Bills just run the ball up the middle, seemingly at will against the Panthers. Not a great look for Carolina. Kind of what I expected, so I don't need to pat myself on the back too much about it. I called that one yesterday. And then the Saints let me down, but not the Saints defense. The offense lets me down. Spencer Rattler throws a pick six. It was probably play of the day. Defensive end tips the ball to himself and runs it in. And that just broke my balls there. Saints defense is tough, but the offense couldn't get anything going. Really great win for Tampa in the long run because that's what's called complementary football. The Bucs look like a football team that can go all the way. That's the type of game where you really got to be happy if you're Todd Bowles. Defense plays great, bails out the offense, just couldn't get anything going. They're banged up. They're tired. Bucs win. They dominate. These games were so bad yesterday. Every game is a blowout. You go to these 4 o'clock games and you're like, all right, the NFL's rigged. They at least have to entertain me here in the second half of my Sunday. I'm obviously joking about the rigged stuff, but it feels that way. Sometimes you're watching these games like, did they just get a button to say, let the other team come back? But obviously not yesterday. Cowboys get killed by the Broncos and the Colts. So the Colts and the Broncos are the 2 best teams in football. If you watch the games yesterday, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. And you're like, what the heck is happening here? But it's like the same game. The Broncos and Colts just going right down the field at will and doing whatever they want. Guys are wide open. Bo Nix, Daniel Jones doing their thing. But specifically to the Broncos, man, they are, when they get the lead and they're at home, there's just something where it just feels insurmountable. Sean Payton was cooking yesterday. I'm still not sold on the Broncos. I'm more sold on the Colts, even though they beat the Titans, than I am on the Broncos long term. I just I don't know. I don't love the play calling always from the Broncos, and the Cowboys defense is really bad. A bad loss for Dallas. Yeah. And the Titans obviously are a disaster. So Mike McCoy, the new coach for the Titans, is definitely not the answer. Colts roll, and the Steelers can't get out of their own way yesterday. Can't get Jordan Love off the field. Packers win. I thought that game was going to go under. It certainly didn't. And that is that. So not the best day for football. Tonight, you would just assume that the Commanders are going to keep this game close because we can't just have blowouts in every single game. I don't have the statistics. I probably should have looked it up. But when was the last time you had double-digit games here in almost every game except the Bengals and the Jets? So the Commanders are getting 10.5 tonight. Here's my take on the game. Marcus Mariota is pretty good. I don't know if he's great. I'm not sure he's a franchise quarterback, but he's pretty good. And the Commanders got humiliated last week against Dallas, national TV, because it was the game of the week. Brady was there. They're getting a lot of guys back, and the Chiefs are feeling great about themselves, but they played the Raiders last week. This is going to be a big step up. It's going to be a fourth quarter game, and I'm not betting against Mahomes anymore when it's a 3, 4, 5, 6 point spread. But 10.5, I'm taking Washington. I'm going to take the Commanders tonight. I think the Chiefs defense is great. I think the Chiefs defense has moments where it's excellent, but I also feel like Mariota is going to be able to find a couple of situations here as Terry's back and Debo's back. Wouldn't shock me if Cliff is able to draw some things up here. They get a couple big plays. It's Monday Night Football. The conspiracy guy in me is like the refs are going to try to at least help out Washington in the first half, keep the game close for TV ratings purposes. I don't know. Maybe it sounds good. I do like Washington regardless to keep this game close tonight. So I'm going to go with the Commanders. I'll have my bets out here in a few minutes. I'm not betting against Max Scherzer tonight. I advise you not to. But I take the flyer on the Blue Jays. Something just smells funny about this game. I think Max is going to pitch a great game tonight. And the Blue Jays are – I'm not saying they're playing with nothing to lose, but I think the pressure's on the Dodgers tonight. It's 1-1. And I think if you're Toronto, you're like, you know what? Let's just play loose. Nobody thinks we're going to win. we're going up against what's Glass now tonight. He's been unhittable. Everyone, after Yamamoto shut us down, it feels like, everyone's like, all right, Blue Jays got their one game. This one's over. Is it over in 5? Is it over in 6? So I think Toronto's going to win tonight. I think they're going to at least jump on them early. Maybe the bullpen can close the door, but that's how I see this game playing out, where the Blue Jays have the lead and they're trying to hold on at the very end, and we'll see if they can do it. All right. Good luck. I think that's it. Yeah. All right. Good luck. Sorry if my first 2 minutes wasn't jumping up and down about the Orioles manager. I'm happy for him. I hope that isn't lost in the sauce here, because I think it's great for him. 43 years old, 3 kids, first chance to be a manager of a Major League Baseball team. It sounds amazing, and I really hope he does a great job. I just feel like the Nationals was the job for him, or the Athletics, or somewhere else. We're ready to win a World Series, and I would have liked to have somebody in here who's been to the World Series, who has played in high-level baseball games, to be able to be the man in the room with the authority to say, I've been here before, this is how we do it. Instead, I believe we have pretty much the same organization running the show, and we'll have to see. Maybe it was a down year for Elias. Maybe the ball just bounced the wrong way. Maybe things will turn around going into next year. I'm certainly going to be rooting for it. And let's find out if Lamar's going to play. But, my gut feeling is the way Huntley played yesterday, even if Lamar says he was ready to play, I think now at this point I'm erring on the side of, why don't you take an extra couple of days? I think the momentum's high, and Huntley played good enough to beat, to beat a team yesterday in the Bears that certainly is just, it's not like the Dolphins are better than the Bears. So I think you roll with Huntley and you give Lamar an extra couple of days. If Lamar's back ready to go and demands the play, I think the Ravens are going to win the game by 3 touchdowns. I think they'd absolutely destroy the Dolphins. Lamar's that amazing. But after watching Huntley yesterday, I think you got to be, especially if you love the Ravens, you got to be very appreciative of what he did yesterday, because, man, we were staring at a really, 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 really long couple of months if we don't win that game. And then you got to give credit to the defense as a whole for just not breaking at the very end. Whatever the play call is, whatever all 11 guys did to make it happen, when you don't play great on defense and the team's able to move down the field in those first 2 drives, that reminds me of the 52 defense, right? The Ray Lewis led defense, where it's like, we're not letting you in the end zone. We're just not letting you in the end zone. We're going to hold on, bend but don't break. Sometimes we're dominant, but even in those years where the defense wasn't amazing, it felt like the red zone defense was always there, where it's just like, we're just not going to let you in. So very, very, very happy about that yesterday. And have a good night, guys. Good luck. Enjoy the game. I'll see you. I'll do a pod on Thursday at some point anyway. It might not be with Justin. Might just do it Thursday morning. And All right. See you guys. Have a good day. I'm coming. Hang on.